All right, we are back with another episode of The Journey with Brandon Thomas. I've got my good friend Richardson here. How
I'm
are
good.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just hanging in there.
All
You know.
right, so we're going to start this in true journey fashion. What are the three greatest moments of your life?
Oh shoot, that was good. You just got me. I did. Wow. I wish I had some questions. Three greatest moments in my life.
Yep.
Um. Wow. That was good.
Yep.
I would have to say. Uh, well, what do you mean by great? Because what I think is great. Okay, greatest moments in my life was when I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Haiti. When I was 5 was when I like separated from my parents, and they came to America and left me there. I think that was a very important moment in my life, very memorable. The other one was when I moved to Los Angeles. That was really epic for me. I drove my 1993 Toyota Camry all across the country to come over here.
Ooh.
And another great moment in my life, I would have to say, was I think when I told my father that I loved him for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, because we had never done that. And I think I was, not I think, I was 23 years old. And I told him, I love you for the first time. So that was a huge step. And he
That's
said same in return, and he'd never said that ever in his life. Yeah. Welcome to a Haitian family. I mean, not all Haitians are like that, but for the most part, this like when they get a little older, they realize, oh wow, these little things that I didn't do, maybe I should have been doing them, so I'm gonna do them now.
those are three pretty epic moments. I feel like they're like straight to it, and that last one is like crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but it's I think it's crazy to hear, but I think if you put it in context to like reality, it's not as crazy, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I hear you. I feel you.
And I think that like I transition myself into man, I'll say I love you like it's nothing. You know what I mean? Because in essence, it's not really. But I think a lot of times we put this like thing on it that makes it harder than it needs to be. When it doesn't have to be soul changing love. You know what I mean? There's a million different kinds of love, but I think that the love is key.
Yes.
So,
But like I told you, man, I love you. I think you're a great person. You know that.
And I love you too, and you know that. So, and it's, you know what I mean? I think that it needs to be less taboo. If that means, I don't know if it's fully taboo, but it's taboo enough to be considered.
Yeah. But especially as men, especially as Black men, I think we need to make it less taboo for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I go out of my way to say it, because I want to take the awkwardness off of it. You know, it was funny. I had this conversation with one of my best friends. We were getting off the phone. I was like, all right, man, love you. And he said it back, and his like wife might have been his girlfriend at the time. And she was like, you guys always say I love you to each other? You know what I mean? Because it was weird. She's like, I don't normally hear that,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, man, we're different around here,
Yeah, especially as Black men, we need to just get over it. Like, it's fine.
Embrace it.
Yep.
Okay, so I've brought you on here today to discuss Haiti.
Of course.
Right?
My favorite topic.
I think that it is I think it is super cool. So for me, right? I was kind of having this conversation the other day about being an African American, right? But we're the only group of people that have like American in their category.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think it's like as Black people, we have to be African American because we don't really know where we're from in Africa. So you just kind of got to lump it together. I also have another side issue that I'm going to get to in a second.
Sure.
Well, no, I'll get to it right now. For me, I don't really love how in America, like growing up in school, I learned about every inch of Europe, all of it, all the different countries, to the point that I don't even call it Europe. When I'm speaking of a country in Europe, I'm speaking to the country.
Yeah.
Whereas in school, I learned, except for one teacher, and his name was Mr. Markley. Mr. Markley he would give us a map of Africa and made us fill in every country. and we did it for maybe like 5 weeks, where he would just give you the bare map, you had to draw it, and then you had to fill it in.
That's so
And
good.
it was epic as you look back on it, because Africa is referenced as a country when it's a continent. It isn't
Huge continent, like huge continent,
like
with thousands of people, thousands of cultures. Jesus.
it isn't, you know what I mean? Like it
Oh, we're
isn't
not mean by thousands of people. I'm talking about like tribes.
totally.
It's like thousands of tribes and thousands of languages and culture and everything else.
I can only imagine there to be everything there. You know what I mean? Because of the size of it. It isn't even drawn to scale on the map. You know what I mean? And if you notice, or if you just kind of hear people talk, they say Africa, Africa, Africa. You know what I mean? We don't say Europe, we say England. You know what I mean? Spain, and you know, and you learn all these, like, you know, again, I know all about Europe. Don't you fret. But I naturally reference Africa as a continent.
Yeah. Well, you said you reference to it as a country instead of
as a country and not a continent.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wonder, how did that come to be? So for me, I enjoy people that know their culture, you know, and know where they come from. And for you to be a Haitian man, and I think that you wear it, you know, with pride. I'm just kind of curious, what is it like being a Haitian in America?
Man, sometimes it's hard. Honestly, I'll tell you, it's a challenge sometimes, you know, because you still have to balance between assimilating and standing on your own. And a lot of times sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to. But I think as the years have gone by, when I first came to America, it was not cool to be Haitian. It just was not. Even the Haitian kids would make fun of me. It was just like, you can't speak that Boombale language, they call it. That's not even a word, by the way.
Okay.
So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you say derogatory things towards like Asian people or, you know, Middle East people, we got the same thing from people like us because they didn't understand. And as the years went by, I feel like it's gotten better. And, you know, every now and then you'll get a comment like, you know, shithole country, you know, and whatever else every now and then. But honestly, being a Haitian in America I think it's great now. People embrace it. They want to know more. There's a lot they don't know. And every time, you know, I try to stay out of politics and change people's minds about politics and stuff like that. Right. But every now and then, or when I get the opportunity and I see something that is of value that we've created, we've contributed towards society as in Haitians, I put it out there. And I'm sure you see it on my page a lot of times. I just want to show people how, like, you know, we've contributed a lot. And I think being Haitian in America is right now is a great time to be Haitian in America right now. I get to wear it with pride. I get to show people what we've done. And I get to show people what it looks like for a Black nation to have had their freedoms away from like colonizers or white people per se, and the outcome of it. That is all Haiti is. We fought for our freedom and we've been paying for it. And we will continue to pay for it until they allow us to not pay for it. Right. Because within that culture, it's a lot about allowance. You know, I allow you to do such and such. I allow you. And we're like, you know what? Fuck you. We have our pride. We're going to fight for what we want. And yes, you know, there may be a lot of corruptions or a lot of stuff in Haiti, but I love it. Totally. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right. And I think, as you see here with our election coming up, there's corruption everywhere you go. Don't worry, we've got enough to pass around. Can you explain to people where Haiti is on the map?
Okay, so a lot of people, actually, it's so funny. I'm glad you said that because a lot of people always think that Haiti is in Africa. Haiti's not in Africa.
Right.
And so Haiti and Dominican Republic are together, right? So let's say Haiti and Dominican Republic are right here. Then right here you would have, let's say, well, Cuba would be right here.
Got it.
And then next to Cuba, on top of Cuba, you have America. So Florida basically is right here.
Right.
And then you have Haiti. I wish I could do this hand. Right. It's backwards. So yes, you have Haiti, and then you have Cuba, I'm showing it to you as if you're looking at the map, I guess, and then you have Florida right up here. So
Right.
Haiti's about like an hour and 20 minutes flying time away from Miami.
Totally. I I love it.
And you can actually see Cuba standing at the tip of Haiti, and you can see Haiti standing at the tip of Cuba.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn close.
Yeah, so you can see it. Like you see the mountains, you're like, oh shit, what's that all the way over there? Yeah.
That's what's up.
Mhm.
Do you feel like because you're Haitian, you are when you're out, you feel like you are the carrier of Haitian culture?
Yes.
You know, like
Yeah.
when you're in a group of a group of
Yes.
like some people, and they're like, "So tell us all about Haiti. Who was the what?" You know, what is
Yep.
that pressure like? Because I feel
Honest,
like
well,
I
I
feel it a little bit as a black man. You know what I mean? When I'm in certain groups of people, where I have to like explain everything. But I can imagine that to be double tough to have to explain it to all the groups of people.
yeah.
Whereas,
I would say the pressure, honestly, I think if you have knowledge, awareness, and you know the facts, it's not a lot of pressure.
right,
So I feel like I do have to be like the ambassador of Haiti sometimes,
right,
and I have to know my facts. So it's pushed me to know so much about it that like if someone asks me a question, I'm like, I already know what you're gonna ask. I already know. I know I not everything, but I know pretty much most of it. What actually scares you is as a black man, I feel like I need to learn more about African American culture
oh
because
wow,
people will there's certain things they will say, and if you don't come up with it or you don't know what it is, you're not black enough.
mm,
But then what I've realized is within my own culture of being Haitian, I am African American enough. Do you know what I mean? Or I am enough because we are of the same people.
totally,
So whenever they ask me questions about that, if it's not like specific to like a song, an era, or whatever like that, we share similar stories in a sense that I can answer and I can speak because the skin that I'm born in, I know these experiences. You know, that's how I'm able to empathically, communicate with you. You know what I mean, and
right,
like share that. So the only pressure I would say is when people ask really, really, really specific questions, because I deal a lot with the idea of voodoo and not voodoo, voodoo, and what it is to Haitian culture and what it is to Black culture and the voice of it. And people can get really interested in that sometimes. And as of recently, I've been like just learning a lot about it. I don't practice voodoo. I think if someone does, that's great for them. I'm Buddhist, but that's just a disclaimer to not scare those people
right.
out there. You know,
Well, like, go ahead.
sometimes. There's I mean there's a lot we just don't understand about it, and I think also as a race that's it's sounds I believe it's a voice of ours that we've neglected because of what society and history has done to it and to us, and how they've taken that power and that voice away from us, and I think that that's unfair. And I'll just let you know that's part of my agenda to really bring the idea of our own religion from the continent of Africa, which is Vodou. We had to give it a name that helped us won many and countless battles that we've kind of sort of forgotten about, and we've demonized it to the point where we have Christianity and everything else right up there, and then that's just like this little weird shit that these people do that's not important. So yeah, how did we change this into that? Oh yes, Haitian. Yeah.
Right, right, right. But
And the pressure of it.
and I think and that segues into my next question is like, do you feel like you have to deal and how do you deal with the stereotypes of, Haiti, and like whether it be what we perceive as voodoo,
Uh,
and also, but I mean, like if you look at things like Bad Boys 2, right,
uh,
where you know what I mean, the Haitian, the Zopal, you know what I mean, like where it's like, yo, they made Haitians look like aggressive, like they're about it over there. So it's like, you know, how do you balance like stereotypes, like, okay, these are Haitians from the movies, and
yeah.
this is
And
us
these
in
are
real life.
yeah. it's kind of like, being a big black guy walking around in this world and having to say hello, how you doing to everyone, smile to everyone, so
Right.
they don't think
You're
a
not
certain
threatened.
thing about you. You know what I mean? You have to, yeah, you're not a threat. So it becomes the same thing, with my culture and all that stuff. But I mean, you know, I'll say this, and I say this to every Haitian. And the moment I say, they're like, "Oh my God, you're right." To be Haitian is a mentality. It's not a skin color. It's not a specific religion. It really is a mentality. And it's the mentality of freedom, the mentality of inclusion, the mentality if you want to fight for freedom, you fight with me, you're Haitian. Literally. Like, I have this script, and it's about, the Haitian Revolution, because every Haitian has a Haitian Revolution script that they want to make, that
Yeah.
America's like, fuck you, you're not making that shit. And it deals a lot with how we got together with the Indians, the Native Americans that were there, because Black people did not exist on that island. I
Right.
just want to let everyone know it is not a Black island. It
Right.
was the Native Americans that, fucking Christopher Columbus went over there and fucking destroyed all of them. Can I curse on this?
Yeah.
Okay. He just pretty much killed all of them, wiped them off the face of the earth, and brought slaves there. Haiti is not a black land. Like, we didn't originate from Haiti. And after we won our independence, the idea was, if you're white, black, Hispanic, doesn't matter where you are from, you are Haitian, because you've decided to fight for freedom, and you will always rebel when you are being taken advantage of. And so that is ingrained in us. I think it's a gene that's passed down, honestly, because that's why Haiti's where it's at a lot of times, because people always want to fight and rebel against, corruption. And there's a lot of corruption down there, just as there's a lot of corruption here. Just there's more funding here, and you can hide it better.
Right.
And you do have a lot of people in America that fight so much for freedom and inclusion that they've been able to balance out the chaos. Where in Haiti, we just didn't really have that. And be it that there are powers out there that are always dividing us,
Right.
and causing the lack of education and such. So we're always in the same state that we are in. But my goal is to fix that and to change that, hopefully one day. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. I think that is, I think that's great. And I think that's super valuable information in terms of just trying to understand exactly what's going on. So we done talked about the history. We done talked about
Yeah, but no, ask me all the questions you want to know about it, because I'm going in December, actually. That's going to be an interesting trip. I think it's going to be a very fun trip. Yeah, I'm producing my second film there.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's called The Little Girl. So yeah.
Excellent. As a Haitian actor,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, do you feel like because you read as an African American that you have to know African American culture? Like, have you run into that?
All the time. I'm gonna tell you this, right? Oh man, all the time. All the fucking time. It is the hardest thing to do for me sometimes. I identify with my culture, and I speak on it so much, and you can hear it in my voice. I had to assimilate so much that yeah, I feel like, a lot of times I just have to be African American, and sometimes it takes away from what you're doing because you're trying to be something that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, yes, that's a yes. I don't know. That's a yes to that question.
Okay, so you're talking about first generation American Haitians and not being connected to Haiti.
Yes. So it's almost like it's a history repeating itself, and we're not really learning from it again. Basically, same thing as African Americans or black culture. Period. It's being not erased, but it's being watered down to a version that we need to not let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, I feel, because what happens is, when I show up in the room and I say I'm Haitian, then they compare me to I don't know, Brandon, who grew up in North Carolina with his Haitian parents. but is African American, it changes the conversation. It changes the texture of it. I welcome it. I think it's a great thing.
Right.
But then I am expected to be the pseudo Haitian type of, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't, that's not what, I mean, that's not what it is. I'm like, I was born and raised there, so I know what it is. This person, yes, is Haitian, but they don't really represent the feel of it. And you can even tell, honestly, you can tell, it's really weird, but there's like a texture almost to like African Americans and other Black people, like either from the West Indies or Africa. There's a different texture, different way of dressing, different way everything looks. You know what I mean? I almost want to say it's a less polished way, but I don't want to make it sound negative, because it's not negative. It's just
right. Well, I think what it is that it's an actual connection to a culture, whereas like African Americans are connected to America. You know what I mean? There's not really like a place. You can take a 23andme.com test, but that doesn't mean you're going to be, you know, you can find out you're 29% Nigerian, but that's not going to make you gang. You know what I mean? So I think it's like one of those things where we long to be connected to something. You know what I mean? So it's like that kid or the Haitian that's from North Carolina, to hear that they're Haitian, they want to be connected to something
Haiti,
bigger than them. So I'm Haitian for sure. And it's never going to feel like a person from Haiti. Absolutely not, because it's just there's a difference between a person raised in New York and a person raised in LA. You know what I mean? So if you throw that whole nother country in there, you're gonna feel it. Oh, you're gonna feel it for sure.
But with that though, I would say, if it's possible, I recommend every African American or any Black person that's never been to a Black country to really go. Like, no matter how poor or how rich that country is, the moment you go, there's this thing you experience. There's this connection, I want to say. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
When I promise you go to Haiti, you'd be like, holy crap, this is a bunch of me's walking around.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't care what happens or the trash or the corruption. There's this like synergy. There's this thing that happens, and you get included right away. Right away. And even in Africa, you get included right away.
Absolutely. And I feel like I felt that on a small scale when I went to Brazil. And the way that the media portrays Brazil is that these people are brown. They look like what Californians would identify as like Mexican, you know what I mean, Latino, and that's there too. But it's some Black folks over there where I was looking at myself, and the reason that they could tell I wasn't from there was because of how I dressed. They could tell from the clothes. But there were people that were coming up to me speaking in Portuguese, and I was like, I got nothing for you here, boss. You know, so I definitely on a very small scale can understand that feeling. Because,
definitely. No, definitely.
Because I felt like, oh, they're not telling us this. Like, it's hold on. You know what I mean? Like the way that it was portrayed, and there was every shade of Brazilian there. I was in Sao Paulo. So there's every shade represented. But the people on this side of the spectrum, I was looking like,
I want to say, I think there were like 15 million slaves taken down to South America, basically that whole area.
Right.
So
I could totally imagine, because they look like regular Black folks. You know, they just spoke Portuguese. So I could definitely see that. And I thought it was crazy, because it wasn't exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah. And then it does something to your mind. It changes your mind a little bit to like the world, what it kind of looks like, and where we are in the world as Black folks too. Do you know what I'm
saying? It absolutely. I've had an idea about Afro-Latino and what it meant. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, I see what they're saying. I see where it's different, but I do see, I see what you're saying, because I didn't at first. I was like, I don't think it's then I got there and I was like, Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. This is a little
Hmm.
bit more clear.
And Brazil shares a lot of culture with Africa. When I say a lot of culture with Africa. You know, you samba, the dance that they do samba, and there's this
Right.
other dance in Africa called Wolo Sedon, capoeira comes. Capoeira actually comes from Africa,
Right. I've seen a bunch
from
of that.
Angola, Africa. And when people say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know capoeira, and I know capoeira. You know what I mean? But they're
Right.
like, oh yeah, it's Brazil. I'm like, actually, it's African. It comes from Angola. The only difference I would say is in Brazil, it's much more upright. In Africa, it's closer to the ground.
Hmm.
From and the majority of their music, everything, it's a they're descendants of all these different African cultures, you know. So definitely Angola and Africa are like almost like this when it comes to culture and the things they do. A lot of slaves were taken from there, and people don't know that, you know what I mean? But then they'll praise capoeira. Oh my God, this thing that I'm like, it's been on the continent of Africa since the beginning of time. You're
Right.
welcome.
Okay, so we talked about the past. We got a Haitian history lesson. Now we're going to talk
uh,
about the present,
okay.
directed towards you. Um, if your life was a book and every chapter has a title, what would this chapter be for you?
Like right now.
Like, no better time than present.
uh, I feel like it'd be something about wake up and move.
Mm, you want to elaborate?
It wasn't waking up and moving. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
get up and move. Something like wake up. No, it's wake up and move. Yeah, an awakening. Yeah,
Okay.
be
I like.
awake or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I like it. Things. Has COVID helped you to get into the present?
COVID. Oh, my dear friend, COVID. BT COVID. It has helped me. It has helped me. I'm naturally a happy person.
Right.
So for me, by default, I always think it's working,
Hmm.
but it's not always working. What COVID has taught me is you have to keep practicing your happiness. You have to keep practicing your religion. You have to keep practicing the source of the thing that has anything that has given you so much value in life, to
Hmm.
not leave it behind you, to not think that, oh, it's a guarantee now. I have it. It's like, you know, this thing that I wear, you know what I mean? It's on me forever. Does that make sense?
That makes. I think that's brilliant. Almost. That makes perfect
It,
sense.
it that's what COVID has taught me, honestly. And I'm doing well with it. I believe I'm doing well with it, but it's taught me that nothing is for free,
Hmm.
especially anything of value. You have to just keep practicing it. And my happiness has been something that I always thought was so free. There's this happiness, but then there's the actual true happiness, the within self, that you
Right.
have to keep practicing. And that's what it's taught me. And to really not let this take over. And sometimes you can be like, okay, mind, I'll put you aside now. Let's
Right.
work on this. And also, I call it awake because what I've realized through COVID also is that I am the person, unlike a lot of other people, I have the tendency to use a situation to keep me in the position of my life that I'm at the current moment. So,
Mhm.
like, I would use a relationship as a reason to not really push myself to do more things because, oh, I'm happy here in this situation. So, do, you know, but when that relationship is over, you know what I mean? Your life is still going on, you know, or I
Right.
use my job as a reason to not do certain things, you know what I mean? Whether it be, you know, not pushing so much for my acting or not pushing so much, you know, for in my health. You know what I mean? A lot of people do that. You know, once you get that job or you get this thing, you just use it as an excuse to not live a full and wholesome life.
Right.
And I think that I have that tendency a lot of times. It's mainly around relationships, friendships, whatever you want to call them. And that's a little habit that I'm like, okay, I need to get out of that. I need to get out of that. That's not a good look at all. It doesn't, and that's what I mean by awake, because I go into like this hibernation, sleepy type of mode
Right.
where I'm like, either, be it a good or bad relationship, be it a good or bad friendship, be it a good or bad job. I just use that to, maybe not try, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then that thing that you're using takes away all the goodness that you brought with you to that table. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like you're gonna have to. So you're basically, I'm doing twice the work. You know what I mean? Like I've already done the work, and I let something else come in to take away the work, and then I have to build back up to do the work. And it's like now I have to know that at this point I'm rebuilding and I'm healing and I'm doing all this work, this inner work. I have to carry that with me to whatever next journey or land that I go to. You know, be it a job or a TV show or whatever it is. I still need to bring that work with me. And bring it with me with a vulnerability and confidence that it's going to serve me because it has been serving. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I love that. If you could draw it up perfectly, what are some things that you see happening in your future?
In my future.
In your future.
In regards to what? Okay. So these are the things that I see happening in my future. I for sure see that I know my calling is to be a producer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a big part of my life. I'm going to bring a lot of people with me. I will have a team, and we will work on subject or topics that we need to start talking about before they just disappear. That deals with us as a Black race, as a Black people. And I think in the past, I used to be so nervous to say that around people, especially white people, because I thought I'd be offending them. But I think it's time for white people to get very comfortable with a thing that is called Black race, Black history, Black culture, just Black awareness.
Right.
And a lot of times that's what it is. I feel like I want an awakening to also happen within the Black community, to really be there for each other. Like I said earlier, if I walk into a room and I see a Haitian, I can call him out on his shit and blah, blah, blah. I should be able to do the same thing to African Americans. And I can when they are part of, like, let's say, I do like a lot of African dance and culture stuff here. And it's mainly African Americans that run it. You know what I mean? We do have some master teachers and stuff. But in that community, I feel very comfortable being my Haitian self with them. And I look at them not as if they're African Americans. This is like, these are my brothers and sisters of the Black community here. Do you know what I mean? And I can say those things, I can correct them, I can be really open and vulnerable to them. And that's part of my agenda, honestly, for us, our inclusion, I mean, we work together and you see how I'm like, BT is me, I am BT, like, what? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's what I want to happen. And I think we have it already in us. We need to not let outside sources do that to us, because all it's doing, honestly, it's keeping us separated, and it's keeping us not stepping into our greatness as much as we can. And I mean, we're pretty fucking great, I think. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if that answered the question.
Absolutely. I mean, that is a question solely for yourself. Lastly, is there any last message you would like to leave to the viewers?
Honestly, the message that I want to leave to the viewers is, I would say read. Read about Black culture, read about what it is. Like, you'll meet a Haitian and they're so proud of where they're from and they have so much to say. It's because the moment you start reading about that little island, it's like, it's not really that much of a difference from Haiti to America. And like, I guess what we've done and how we've done it, we have done so much for this world. I don't know how else to say, but we have done so much, not just Haitians, like Black, we have done so much for this world. And I think it's time that we need to know that and step into it and confidently walk in that power. There's like, it bothers me. It used to bother me, but I get it now when, like, how, I don't know, like certain African-American people would look at themselves as in, like, lesser than, or I don't have this, I'm underprivileged and blah, blah, blah. I understand those things, they do exist, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, I come from a land or people that are so proud. There's no, if I don't have it, I will find it. I will make it. And no one can, take that away from me. And I think we need to just tap into that more as African Americans. We need to tap into that so much more. And I think we are doing it now, don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I support it, but I would say just read about your culture, know where you come from as far as like, or know about different Black cultures all around and see which one you really like tap into and you fuck with. Because that will tell you a lot about who you are.
Right.
I think that's what I would say.
Totally. Yeah, that's what you did say.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I said it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, perfect, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you stopping by the journey. I feel educated and enlightened. And yeah, man, this was great. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions about Haiti, I mean, you could just look up my Instagram handle. It's Richardson_Chery.
Boom.
That's
perfect.
it.
There it is. All right.